Good morning. As of yesterday, the city has 14,526 reported cases, 107 people hospitalized with COVID-19, and 428 deaths. I'm up here every week to ensure our residents have the most up-to-date and accurate information so they in turn can make smart and informed decisions for themselves and their families. We remain focused on continuing to scale up our response to this emergency to ensure residents of our city have the resources and support they need at this time, while continuing to leverage the wealth of medical and public health expertise right here in Baltimore City. I want to remind residents of the invaluable resources available at coronavirus.baltimorecity.gov. There, residents can find real-time data for Baltimore City as well as locations for where they can get tested. We need all of our residents to commit to wearing face covering. It is the easiest thing we can do to slow the spread. I know that the governor announced the state would be moving to phase 3 at 5 p.m. on Friday. The governor's orders allow for local jurisdiction to have authority on deciding when they move between phases, and we will continue to exercise that authority. While some parts of the state may feel ready to move fully into phase 3, that is not the case for Baltimore City. The data for Baltimore looks promising, and we anticipate moving to phase 2 next week, which would include allowing 50% indoor dining capacity. More information about phase 2 will be forthcoming. Right now, we want to focus on harm reduction and public health safety for the holiday weekend. We do not want to erase the gains we've made over the past month by loosening restrictions now. Now is still not the time to be planning large parties, cookouts, celebration, or religious event. We are still in a pandemic, one that's built to spread rapidly in large groups. And please continue to wash your hands and high points as often as possible. The coronavirus pandemic hasn't gone anywhere, but this time we know what we need to do. In order to continue to lower our case numbers, abide by these simple rules over the Labor Day weekend. Do not host cookouts with people outside of your household. Wear a mask when in public. Practice social distancing in public. Labor Day is usually an opportunity to see friends and family, but Baltimore, don't forget, we're still in an active pandemic. My executive order exists to protect the public from this dangerous disease. Please do not gather in large groups, and if you are out in public, wear a face covering to protect yourself and others. Let's get through the Labor Day weekend safely without violence or an outbreak of the coronavirus. Again, I want to thank the majority of the Baltimoreans who have heeded the warnings and followed the guidance. And as always, we will continue to monitor the data daily. Now to the business of the day. On March 5th, our lives changed in Maryland. Since the very first day of the state of emergency, every city agency has worked to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 and support the residents of Baltimore City. I want to take this moment to thank every Baltimore City employee that has contributed to the city's emergency response, and that is working hard every day to maintain city service despite the many unforeseen challenges driven by COVID-19. We are 6 months into a global pandemic, and my goals have remained the same: to reduce the spread of COVID-19 and to ensure the residents of Baltimore have the essential service and resources they need to stay safe and healthy. The Baltimore City Health Department has led the way in our public health response. A cross-agency team continues to coordinate our emergency food response, which has resulted in 5.4 million meals being served between March the 18th and August 31st. And today we have dedicated funding to keep families out of homelessness. COVID-19 is hitting our city especially hard. And now families are being faced with tough decisions about how to pay their bills. Many can't afford food, utilities, and other essential expenses. We know that the biggest bill most families pay each month is for housing, either a mortgage payment or rent. And for too many right now, the money isn't there. Nationwide, evictions and homelessness are expected to significantly increase in the months ahead. And in Baltimore, we're doing everything we can to prevent that. Today, the Board of Estimates approved an interagency agreement that puts in motion a comprehensive eviction prevention program that will help keep thousands of Baltimore residents in their homes. and help landlords to get in front of the eviction process and work with tenants to better ensure timely payment of rent. We will use $30 million in federal, state, and local funding to support families to stay in their homes. Together, we can prevent thousands of evictions and avoid a future of homelessness for residents in the months to come. I would like to thank the Department of Housing and Community Development, in partnership with the Affordable Housing Trust Commission, the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services, and the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, for working together to develop a response to support housing stability in our city. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our Acting Housing Commissioner, Alice Kennedy.
Good morning. I want to start by thanking Mayor Young for combining available resources to bring a more robust program of support to Baltimore renters. The Department of Housing and Community Development was able to implement the first stage of the city's housing response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and temporary rent support was made available before the eviction court reopened. Temporary rent support provides assistance to renters owing up to 3 months' rent for April, May, and/or June in order to reduce evictions that would be in the pipeline in the fall. As the mayor noted, with the economic impact of COVID continuing and delinquency rates standing at more than twice the normal level among renters who do not receive any housing subsidy, it is clear we need to bring relief. For this effort, the Department of Housing and Community Development is reallocating CARES Act Community Development Block Grant funding to legal services and case management for eligible tenants. We are also providing funds from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for rental assistance. We have been pleased to work with the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success and the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services to bring this longer-term program with much greater reach to meet the growing need. We want to thank the members of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Commission who have consistently pushed us to provide support for people who cannot be served with federal and state funding. Additional thanks go out to the legal services providers and case managers who are already supporting clients at risk of losing their homes. The resources that the city is announcing today will help them continue and also expand their work. We also want to recognize the Housing Authority of Baltimore City, which is also helping with the implementation of this program. This is a true citywide response to an unprecedented crisis, and we are building a foundation of programs and collaboration that can serve clients better for the long haul. At this time, I would like to introduce Tisha Edwards, who is the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I, like you, believe strongly in the potential of this program to make a difference for thousands of Baltimore City residents. The difference between being able to provide shelter for their families or facing a future of homelessness. Before going into the details of the eviction prevention program, I'd like to share a little context. Going into the pandemic in March, 1/4 of the city's residents participated in SNAP, the federal food stamp program. By June, that had increased to 1/3. Food is a basic and critical need, and the pandemic makes it hard for residents to meet that need. Also, going into the pandemic, Baltimore had a standing rental delinquency rate of 10%. By April, 1 month in, that rate had doubled to 21%. By June, it had nearly tripled by 28%. Food and shelter are essential resources, and for many residents, the pandemic has made it hard to meet their most basic needs. Lastly, when we reached out to families early this summer about what they needed to support their children going into the virtual school year, we didn't just hear about devices, Wi-Fi, and childcare. We also heard that families are really struggling financially on all fronts and having to choose between the most basic and critical needs. These choices threaten the health and well-being of children, families, and our community. So in the spirit of bringing stability to our communities and reducing the trauma that can be caused by financial and economic uncertainty, we have developed a program that decreases the chances of homelessness and aims to support families in identifying a path of financial stability. Although moratoriums provide a short-term fix, ultimately families must eventually pay back rent, and landlords must eventually pay their mortgages. On June 29th, Mayor Young announced a temporary rent support program and a $15 million commitment to jumpstart a longer-term eviction prevention effort for Baltimore's residents struggling to pay rent as a result of COVID-19. The additional resources made available by Mayor Young today position Baltimore for a more sustainable approach to meeting the needs of tenants facing eviction. By leveraging the balance of the initial $15 million allocation, the city identified additional funds to support a more comprehensive eviction prevention program that focuses on financial assistance to cover past due bills up to 6 months of back rent, relocation assistance, both financial and logistical, for tenants who are evicted or forced to leave an inhabitable unit, legal assistance for tenants facing eviction prevention proceedings, and case management to connect households to additional resources and assist them generally through this difficult time. Slated to launch in late September, the Eviction Prevention Program will be administered by the Baltimore City Community Action Partnership. The CAP centers are eager to help families navigate this extraordinarily difficult time. Our work with families will build on existing resources such as energy assistance, water bill assistance, and now eviction prevention to help families move from financial crisis to financial stability. Finally, I want to echo Mayor Young's appreciation and gratitude to our essential workers, our countless community partners, and my colleagues in the Mayor's Cabinet who are so deeply committed to Baltimore. Thank you, Mayor Young.
Thank you, Tisha. Thank both of you on behalf of the residents of Baltimore. Next, I want to announce a new partnership between Baltimore City Public Schools and Baltimore City Recreation and Parks. The Student Learning Centers program will provide more than 1,000 students in-person access to their virtual learning lesson via 15 locations in both schools and city rec centers. The program is designed to provide students in grade K through 5 who are less likely to be engaged in virtual learning with a way to complete their lessons. From 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. daily, students will participate in virtual learning in small cohorts, groups led by a distance learning proctor. Additionally, students will take part in recreation-led activities designed to stimulate their minds and bodies, to serve students most in need while observing social distancing guidelines. The program will be limited to 10 to 15 students per group. Consideration will be given to the children of parents who continue to work in person during the pandemic, students who were unable to actively participate in the spring virtual learning, students who attend the Student Learning Center host school, and students that attend any other schools eligible for the concentration or poverty grant. This critical program will serve our most vulnerable students and help to bridge the digital divide that some are facing as online learning prepares to resume. And now I will introduce the Director of the Baltimore City Department of Recreation and Parks, Reginald Moore.
Good morning. I want to start by thanking Mayor Young for his continued support for our department. We're excited today to launch our new innovative program for the fall. The collaboration of my office and BCPS, lending their knowledge and expertise to provide a hybrid learning approach for our youth. This is one example of the importance of our relationships to work closely with our partners at BCPS. I encourage parents to visit the BCPS link, which is www.baltimorecityschools.org/SLC Fall 2020 to complete their application. As the mayor stated earlier, this program will serve over 1,000 students, so I encourage parents to start applying today. This site became active on yesterday. Also, we encourage our citizens to continue to visit bcrp.baltimorecity.gov or our social media outlet at Rec and Park for additional innovative and creative programs for the fall as we continue to transition through our COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Reggie, for thinking outside of the box and working with the school system to come up with this great partnership that will benefit our young people. Now we'll take a few questions.
Mayor, to be clear, what you're saying today is that nothing is going to change in terms of the city's restrictions as of Friday at 5 p.m. Am I correct?
You're correct.
And starting next week, restaurants will be able to go to 50% capacity. What about movie theaters, malls, et cetera?
Well,
Casino
we'll be giving more information on phase 2 at another press conference.
Well, you keep calling it phase 2 when the governor started to go to phase 3.
The governor's in phase 3. We're not in phase 3. We're moving to phase 2.
Housing advocates have expressed some concern about the firing of Michael Braverman. Can you please
We will not be discussing any personnel decisions.
Do you have anything?
We are not discussing any personnel decision.
The U.S. Postal Service put out an audit that said pieces of political mail were lost during the primary. Do you have anything to say about that? And as we,
I'm not aware of that, but that might be the reason why I didn't get a lot of votes.
Mayor Young, how did Gary Brown continue to get his salary?
I can't hear you.
How did Gary Brown continue to get his salary after he was let go?
I will not be discussing any personnel decisions because it's personnel matters.
Can you talk about the recent ID report showing more than $1 million in waste, fraud in city government since the start of this year? How can you assure taxpayers that the city is using their money wisely?
Well, you know, we have the Inspector General, and she's getting tips. We're giving her tips because none of us want to waste city taxpayers' dollars. You got to remember, I'm a taxpayer too.
So what are you doing to prevent that?
We're going to continue to give information to the Inspector General. We're going to continue to encourage our employees who are seeing things that are going on in the city of Baltimore that's committing fraud and waste. We're going to continue to make sure that they do their reporting.
And can you explain why you felt it was necessary to defer the vote on the Columbus statue this morning?
I deferred it because some of the board members were not briefed.
Why?
Didn't I just say they were not briefed?
Will they be briefed?
They will be briefed. That's why I asked for it to be delayed.
Mayor Young, the MTA has announced that they're going to cut the bus lines by 20%, and I think impacting at least 25 different bus lines. Can you speak to that? I know you sent a letter.
Well, we was very disappointed that the MTA will cut any services for the city of Baltimore that's already struggling with bus transportation, trying to get people to and from jobs. And I know we're still in the pandemic, but some people still have to go to work. And I know that the pandemic have really crippled a lot of funding for a lot of agencies and federal programming, but MTA is a vital, it's like life and death, that people are able to get to their jobs, that people who don't have cars can get to their hospital appointments, to go get food and those kind of things. So I'm hoping that the governor will reconsider and try to find some kind of funding to fully fund MTA.